Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn. And joining me today to purr over that amazing performance at the Emirates is Jerry from Cork Raids. How's it going, Jerry?
I'm very good, Kyle. Absolutely buzzing with the result last night. I'm sure all United fans are over the moon. It's a fantastic performance and a great win.
Yeah, we're all absolutely on top of the world. And the complete opposite to how Arsenal fans are feeling at the moment. And I have to say, I've been enjoying the meltdown on Arsenal fan TV. I've been getting the popcorn out and watching it. And I've been seeing some Arsenal fans even crying, grown men crying over that result. They thought it was so certain that they were going to beat Man United yesterday. And all their predictions were that Arsenal were going to win easy, and it didn't happen. Amazing start by Michael Carrick. His first two games, most people didn't give United a prayer against City or Arsenal, but remarkably, United have come away with 6 points. It's absolutely fantastic, Jerry, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant and it's so unexpected as well. Like if you had said to us 2 weeks ago that we're going to come out of the next two games with maximum points, and no one would have believed you. Um, it's just crazy the turnaround in form and in everything, and the way we're playing, the confidence, and it just seems to be coursing through our veins at the moment, and everything we do seems to turn to gold. It's been a brilliant start, and long may it continue. You know, we absolutely battered City last weekend, and I know the final score was 2-0, but it could easily have been 5 or 6 or even more. We really let them off the hook there, but and to go to the Emirates and score three goals, it's just brilliant. You know, when was the last time we did that? I think you're going back to maybe Ollie's time or Mourinho even to when we last went there and won like that in that fashion, you know. And I think we were full value for it as well. We're probably just about the better team, and you saw that from the goals we scored, real quality and brilliant strikes. And I'm sure we'll talk about those as well in due course.
Well, the last time we won at the Emirates in the league, it was under Mourinho in 2017. I think you remember Jesse Lingard scoring in that game and doing the dance moves. So
Yes.
I hadn't realised it was as long as that. I know we won there on penalties in the cup last season, but it has been a long time in the league. So we were, and us twice this season we've done this where we have not won at a rival's ground for a long time. Anfield was 10 years, and the Emirates has been 8, and we've put that right this season, which is fantastic. And yeah, to follow up the City performance with another performance like that is just absolutely unreal. Um, I mean, as you said, we battered City off the pitch. It should have been 5 or 6 nil, and that would have been a fair reflection of how dominant we were. Yesterday, it was more of an away performance. We set deep and played on the counter, which is what you have to do away from home against a top side. And they really struggled to break us down. I mean, they only scored from an own goal, which was a mishit that came off Martinez's standing leg and went in, and then they scored from a set piece. And to be honest, most of the set pieces we dealt with them. Lemens was, and Harry Maguire in particular, was superb at dealing with their set pieces. They were causing chaos, and only once did they manage to score from one of those, and they must have had at least 10 corner kicks. Um, yeah, I thought Anya shots on target and he scored from all three. That is absolutely ruthless. What you want from an away performance is to defend well, make it difficult for the opposition to score, and then be absolutely ruthless whenever you have chances. And we absolutely did that. So I couldn't be happier. Just yesterday, just being surrounded by United fans, I haven't seen United fans this deliriously happy for such a long time. Those back-to-back results are just absolutely incredible. And to make it even better, I had done a bet on Mambumo to score first yesterday, and whenever it's an own goal, it rolls over to the next person. So we
All
won,
right.
won the money there as well. And Mambumo,
Oh,
to be honest,
brilliant.
he scores first quite a lot, Mambumo. So I think he's the person that I'm just going to do all the time now. I mean, he tends to get the first goal in games a lot.
Yeah.
He did it at Tottenham, he did it at Anfield, and he's did it at the Emirates. And and so many other games. Um, so yeah, we'll take a look firstly at Arsenal's goal. Um, it was just a complete mishit by one of their players, and I think if I'm being critical of Martinez, he was focusing too much on the man rather than the ball,
Yeah,
and it's come off his standing heel and went in. Lemens really had no chance, so that was on. Martinez probably could have done better there. But then Zubimendi makes a rare blunder. I don't know who he's trying to pass that ball to. I don't know. He must have been trying to pass it back to the goalkeeper or something, and absolutely
yeah,
scuffed it. Um, and then Mabumo was so cool, wasn't he? When he was 1-on-1.
he was clinical, really clinical, wasn't he?
Yeah, which we come to expect from him now when he's in those positions. And Lemens made a couple of important stops as well.
Yeah,
Zubimendi had a header from a set piece, which he tipped over the bar, and then he saved from Bakary Saka, went for like a sneaky near post effort, and Lemens got down and kept it out. And, and to be honest, most of the corners he was dealing with them. He was coming out and gathering the crosses. He was getting the punch on them. I know one of them ended up in a bit of a mess and ended up in the net. But by and large, I thought Lemens was really good. Yet again, he's so consistent, isn't he?
he is. He's really made a big difference to our entire game. Really, like he's really come in and settled things down. And if you remember back to the start of the season when we were chopping and changing between Boyendir and Onana, everything was just nervy and just sloppy. You know, even the passing out from the back, and you couldn't rely on them to not go through a game and make a mistake. And since Lamens has come in, he's just been consistent, and that's what you want. You know, it's not that he's coming in and making all these world class saves. Um, Far from it. He's just kept things simple. And I think the best compliment I could pay the young lad is that you don't really notice him. And that's probably what you want from a goalkeeper.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way Van der Sar was. You didn't even notice he was there most of the time, and that, that is a massive compliment to any goalkeeper. Um, yeah, and let's put this result into context. As Dara here has pointed out in the comments as well, Arsenal, how long have they went without conceding 3 goals in a game? It was 121 matches, I think. Um, and we scored three against them yesterday. They were
Yeah,
they were top of the league, right? They're still 4 points clear at the top of the league. They had won 7 out of 7 games in the Champions League. Um, they're arguably the best team in Europe right now. They hadn't lost at home all season, and United went there and beat them. So it's an absolutely remarkable result and fully deserved. And yeah, and Patrick Dorgu, we have to talk about him. You know, he just keeps delivering. I know, and I have to hold my hands up. I said 6 weeks ago that he's not a United player because I've been watching him for 11 months, and I thought he isn't up to this level. He's come from Lecce, one of the weakest teams in Serie A, and he just looks like he's not going to make it at Old Trafford. It's very hard as a developing player to come in and play for United when you're a regular starter. It's okay if you're a developing player at United and you're on the bench and you're only coming on now and again, or you're starting the odd game in the cup. That's the perfect way to develop. But when you're expected to start every match, it's really difficult because there's not much room for error. The pressure begins to mount when you're not delivering. But I think the turning point was in Boxing Day when he was played at right wing in that different formation, and he he was immense in that first half. Then he scored that brilliant goal on the volley from the edge of the box, and his confidence has just been high ever since. Um, he's got 5 goals and assists in his last 7 games, and he could have had more. He had a disallowed goal against Wolves. He had a cross on a plate for Kuna against Villa, which Kuna didn't take. Um,
Yeah,
but that his goal against Newcastle was fantastic. But that yesterday was special, and the build up to it, we 1-2 with Bruno, and then the volley, and it always looks better when it goes in off the underside of the bar as well, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah, it's just there's something about it that when it hits the crossbar and in, it's untouchable for a goalkeeper. And it was without doubt. I think it was the goal of the season so far. Anyway, and you talk about the goal he scored on Boxing Day against Newcastle. You thought that's going to be hard to top that one because that was a fantastic volley as well. But he did it. He went out there and beat that yesterday. It's one of the best goals I've seen in a long time. I mean, you're not going to get a sweeter strike than that. Just absolutely flew past David Raya. Great goal. And you're right. He's been excellent the last few weeks. And you go back to the turning point when he was played on the wing against Newcastle. But I go back to another one against Burnley where he was played left wing, and he put an absolute brilliant cross on a plate for Benjamin Sheshko. Remember that one?
Yeah.
I thought he was very good that night as well, especially in the second half. So we're seeing little signs here and there with the last few weeks, probably since Christmas, that he's getting more and more comfortable in a United shirt, and he's starting to develop into a really good player now. The only question mark is, do you see him as a defender going forward, or do you see him as more of a winger? I think that's going to be the $1 million question now for his future. But it's good to have a utility player as well that can slot into different roles. I mean, you could play him on the left, you could play him on the right, or you could play him at fullback as well. So it's probably no harm to have a few different positions ready and waiting for him. And I hope his injury isn't too bad because he was taken off with a potential hamstring injury yesterday as well.
Yeah, it looked like a hamstring, but Michael Carrick said it might be cramp, and we're hoping that's what it is.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he has just proved me wrong. Since Boxing Day, I didn't think that he had this in him. But I'm more than happy to be wrong about this. Um, yeah, he's been absolutely superb in recent weeks, and long may it continue. It, it's actually got to the stage where if he is injured, that would be a big blow to United. I just wouldn't have believed they
yeah,
would have been saying that at the start of December. Um,
yeah,
yeah, for me, his best position is probably on the wing, but no doubt if there are injuries or suspensions, he can slot in at fullback if need be. So yeah, he is going to be an important utility man for United, I think,
yeah.
in the next few years. We've had a number of those over the years. Phil Neville, John O'Shea, and Ji-sung Park. There was plenty of utility man. So every great United team has one. Yeah, no doubt about that. Uh,
Definitely, yeah, yeah,
um, so Arsenal then equalised again. No, sorry, they equalised. Obviously, they took the lead, and then we went 2-1 up, and then they equalised, and it was Moreno
mhm,
with that scruffy goal from a corner. Now I don't really blame Lemans because Arsenal, what they do is they crowd the 6-yard box and they surround the goalkeeper
yeah.
so he can't
Blocked him off.
move. They blocked him off completely, yeah, and yeah, it was just a complete and utter chaos in there, and they got a scruffy goal from it. And to be honest, maybe this is just you know PTSD from watching United in the last number of years, but I just thought
Mhm.
Arsenal will go on to win the game now. That's just the
Yeah,
way I felt at the time. Um, but then what was it? 2 minutes and 58 seconds later, Kuna just produces that moment of magic, and I was absolutely delirious. I was just jumping all over the bar. And yeah, it was just what a moment. Yeah, I think it was Bruno plays at the Manu. Manu plays a nice wee touch to Kuna. He turns, and then he's just invited to shoot, really, isn't he? And it's
yeah.
absolutely inch perfect. He curls it around the defender, and it's into the corner, and Rhea gets nowhere near it. And it's 3-2 to United after about 87 minutes. Even then, I was just hoping and hoping that we would hold on. But I thought we defended immensely well in the 7 minutes of stoppage time, and they didn't really have
Yeah.
a proper effort on goal, did they?
No, not that I can remember, but it was such a beautiful strike by Cunha. and you go back to the type of characters that we've needed probably in the last couple of seasons, he's definitely up there. Himself and Mbumo have really transformed our attack to the point where you're confident of going to places like Anfield and the Emirates and scoring a couple of goals, you know. Whereas you go back to last season and the last 12 months under Amarim, I think there was a feeling, certainly I had it, and I know a lot of United fans are the same, that feeling of if we concede a goal late, then that's it. We're not going to go again and we're not going to score again. And you're just kind of resigned to a defeat or a draw or whatever. But I thought yesterday and under Carrick, that belief seems to be back, doesn't it? Where we're actually going, and even if we get a late setback like we did yesterday, we go again and we have the belief and the confidence to go up the field and try and score. And that's exactly what we did. And it was a huge goal, absolutely brilliant. And I think there's something about the black kit. When United play in black at the Emirates, then we usually win, don't we? And so it proved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I seen your montage that you did yesterday of all United's appearances in black at Highbury or the Emirates. Yeah, there's been a lot of those throughout the years, and um, yeah, that was the moment that really proved that Cunha is a Man United player. That was a big goal in a big game. Now, just like Niall in the comments, I was also quite critical of Cunha over the Christmas period. I know he had a good game against Leeds, but I thought in the other matches he wasn't very good. But
Yeah,
those two sub appearances against City and Arsenal have been really, really impressive. And obviously yesterday getting the crucial goal, that was
brilliant. Yeah,
a talismanic goal that he got yesterday.
yeah,
That's the type of goal that a main man gets, and
yeah,
yeah, I think that this is the moment where he has arrived at Old Trafford for me. Um, uh,
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think he needed
I
that as well. Like you said, sorry, he probably needed that moment. I think up until now he's been in and out of games, and he's been a little bit inconsistent where he's had one really good game and then maybe not so good the next game. But I think he needed that big moment yesterday to just endear him to the fans and really set his career alight at United. And who knows, that might drive him on now to better things because we know what he's capable of. He just needs to produce it week in, week out, and a little bit like Mbumo, who has been a lot more consistent since he's arrived. But maybe now we'll see the absolute best of Cunha as well. And it's great, isn't it? Brilliant to be talking about these options up front because last season we could hardly score a goal. So it's fantastic to have so many good options now.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden under Carrick, it looks like United have got so many quality players. You know, under Amram, I was thinking that we have a couple of good players. Some of them are decent, and others are just not good enough. But right now, it feels as if we have lots of great players. It feels as if our bench is really strong as well.
Yeah,
Like you think that Mason Mount didn't even get on yesterday.
that's
Shesko was
right.
only
Yeah.
getting a few minutes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and Kunis, been used off the bench. So it just shows you the options that we have now.
And
Um,
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Do you put that down to the change in formation and just playing players in probably their best positions? Because it's been like a light switch. It's just changed so sudden that players have looked way more confident and at ease on the ball. We're even keeping the ball really well. Like you saw that little exchange for Dorgu's goal, Bruno Dorgu little double 1-2. I mean, you just couldn't see that happening under Amarim.
no, yeah, I think I always said that the squad is built to play in a back four, and they're built for a 4-3-3. I would say I always felt even under Amram that if we switch that formation, we'll get more of a tune out of these players, and and so it's proved so far. And
Yeah,
to be honest, I don't think most people in the squad, apart from maybe Menu, I don't think most people in the squad disliked Amarim, but I don't think any of them really bought into his methods. No one really believed that system and that formation was going to be successful. deep down, I don't think that they really believed in him. But right now, they absolutely believe in Carrick's methods and Steve Holland's methods. I don't know if you saw the clip of Steve Holland doing the breakdown of, he was demote. Sorry, I can nearly say it. Roberto Di Matteo's assistant whenever Chelsea won the Champions League, and he
Yeah.
broke down Chelsea's tactics in when they beat Barcelona in the semi-final,
Oh
and
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I seen that.
he looked like a guy who knows he knows what he's talking about when it comes to being a tactician,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he's a huge part of what we're seeing at the moment. And he's actually from Stockport, and he's a former United season ticket holder as well. So this is a dream job for him too. And yeah, and if United keep playing like this, you know, you have to give Carrick the job. I know people are going to make comparisons with Solskjaer because people say that he shouldn't have got the job because he won 14 of his first 19 games. But under Solskjaer, okay, we didn't win anything, but we got very close to winning things. We had a lot of cup runs, and we had a lot of big wins in big games. And the football was probably the most enjoyable in the post-Ferguson era.
Yes.
That's what we're seeing right now. Again, the football is very enjoyable, and Carrick is not Solskjaer. He's a different guy, so you have to judge him on him alone. And if he was, I know he's got 17 Premier League games. He's won the first two. If he was to win 15 out of 17, United qualify for the Champions League. Yeah, kind of, you know, I- when Amram was still there, and I was thinking of maybe, or just after Amram was sacked, let's say, and I was thinking of the possibility of a legend taking over again on a temporary basis, I probably would, before the ball was kicked, I probably would have said, no, it'd be a bad idea that if a legend becomes interim manager and he does well, it's a bad idea to give him the job.
Hmm.
But I just know I'm changing my mind. It's just the emotion of being a football fan. You just get sucked in. I'm thinking if Carrick finishes in the top four, we're playing this beautiful brand of football. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Imagine if Carrick, wins 15 out of 17 games. We comfortably finish in the top three, and then we bring in Thomas Tuchel and gets off to a bad start. The football is boring and pragmatic. We're all gonna be going, we
Yeah.
should have give Carrick the job, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of similar boat to yourself. I would have been thinking beforehand. Maybe it's not such a good idea to get wrapped up in all this emotion and stuff like that. But it's just impossible not to. Especially when we're going out and we're actually playing like a proper United team again, attacking football and aggressive, quick play and scoring goals, fighting till the end, late goals. That's what you want to see. But at the moment, I think it's a hypothetical question, really, because you know it, it's easy to say, if he does win his next 14, 15 games or whatever, but he has to do that, and we have to judge it, I think, at the end of the season rather than now. Um, so I'm just enjoying it at the moment. I'm enjoying seeing United win games and beat the top teams and look like a top side ourselves as well. Um, and I'm just trying not to get too carried away. I think Fulham next Saturday will be a huge test to see where we're at. Um, if we can get over that and win a couple of more games, then the momentum's going to build. And I think the clamour amongst the supporters and amongst the fan base will be huge to maybe consider Carrick as to be the next permanent manager. But like I said, it's probably a question more for May or June rather than now. Let's see how he does, and we try and enjoy it, and hopefully we get into the Champions League. But I think he definitely has to be in the conversation if he gets us back into the Champions League.
Yeah, another thing with Solskjaer is that I think it was in March when they made a decision to give him the permanent manager's job. Yeah, and as you rightly say, this time around, we should just wait till the last game of the season has been played.
Yeah,
Then they can deliberate for a couple of weeks and then make their decision. I think that would be the sensible choice. Let's see how he does over the course of the season, and
yeah,
and more importantly, let's see how he does in the smaller fixtures, like against a Fulham, Everton, Bournemouth. Games that we're expected to win. Let's see if he can get the mentality right in those games, because we've seen United in the post Ferguson era win a lot of big games and then go and lose to a West Brom. Do you remember even under Mourinho when we had that comeback win at the Etihad when Pogba scored twice? And we've prevented them from winning the title against us. In the very next game, we lost 1-0 at home to West Brom. That just sums up United in the post Ferguson era. The acid test for Carrick now is to go and win those games against the likes of Fulham. And then I start to believe that he just might be the man.
Mhm.
But yeah, you just can't rule him out just because he used to play for United and he's inexperienced as a manager. Take a look at Guardiola. He was the Barcelona B team manager, and they gave him the job. Look how that worked out. Vincent Company got Burnley relegated, and Bayern Munich gave him the job. They're breaking records over there in the Bundesliga. At the minute, I know they lost at the weekend. That's their first
Yeah.
loss of the whole season. But
And I think sometimes a certain style of management might just suit the club. Carrick might just be the man to come in and suit everything. Everything just clicks at Man United, and that probably would be the hope if he does get the job. But sometimes, a person's face just fits, and
mhm.
who knows? I'd love it. I'd love for him to do well and get it into the Champions League and ultimately get the job. But I think you do have to do your due diligence and go out and interview the top managers too. If there's a chance of getting Luis Enrique or someone like that, then I think you have to at least consider it and try and sound it out and see what happens. But yeah, let's see how he does, and hopefully he gets us back into Europe, because that opens up a whole new possibility then with transfers and money and everything. So yeah,
Yeah, if Carrick gets us into the Champions League, I know how I will feel in May. I'll want him to get the job. But in that circumstance, the only manager that I would take instead of him is probably Enrique. Um,
oh yeah, I think Enrique is the dream, isn't he? He's the dream manager. I think for me, he's the best in Europe, bar none.
yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. But what I think probably goes in Carrick's favour, and maybe Solskjaer had a bit of this as well, is that they know what it's like to be a Man United player. They understand the pressure that comes with being
Yeah.
a Man United player. Um, and by extension, they know what the pressure is like being a Man United manager as well. Uh, having been there under Fergie, so they know what it's like to be one of those players. And you're practically living in a goldfish bowl. And
Exactly.
the,
Yeah.
the scrutiny is like no other. The only scrutiny that matches United is like the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah.
So they understand, what the players are going through. So they had that kind of unique experience.
Hmm.
That and I think that is part of the reason why Solskjaer did well initially and did well for a time, and why Carrick is doing well at the moment. And it's because they understand, what it's like
Expectations.
to be a
Yeah.
Man United player.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the expectations are so high at the club, and I think it's good that he was there under Fergie for the good years as well, because he knows what it's like to play in title winning sides and Champions League winning sides as well. I mean, Carrick was one of the best holding midfielders in Europe in his time, and remember when we signed him, a lot of people were questioning that at the time as well, that was he good enough and all this, but I think he went and proved these doubters wrong. Um, and him and Scholes actually formed a really good partnership in the 06-07 season, and we went on to win the league. So yeah, it's good to have someone that just knows the expectations at the club, and like you said, that they've been there and done that, and they've worn the t-shirt literally. So yeah, it's no harm.
Yeah, and he's a cool, calm, and collected character as well, and he never gets too emotional, never too high or never too low. Um, yeah, and Rooney knows him really well, and he's been saying already that he knew that Carrick was going to have an impact at United. Um, uh, yeah, he just might be the guy, and this the combination of Carrick, Steve Holland, and Jonathan Woodgate and Johnny Evans. There might be a really nice mix of ingredients there that just works. Um, yeah. So if this is the way we're playing come May, then I would probably say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And unless Enrique wants the job, then you'd have to consider it because um, we know that he plays a really delightful brand of football as well, and he obviously has much more experience than Carrick. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a nice problem to have, and yeah, I'm really intrigued now to see how United play against the likes of Fulham,
Yeah,
because this is normally where they slip up when they after winning a big game or two. Then that let's see. Do you know what I've noticed in recent games? Now, everybody who listens to this will know I'm a big critic of Diogo Dallo, and I know a lot of people have come around to my way of thinking in recent months. Do you notice that Dallo now, whenever like Arsenal or City, whenever they played the ball out to one of their wingers, he sprints out to the winger to close him down, where he didn't do
yeah.
that before. He's trying a lot harder now. Now, will he do that against Fulham? Let's see, because that's what he should do. Regardless of who we're playing, he should be busting a gut to close defenders down. He loves to get
Definitely.
forward and get involved in attacks, but his primary job is closing wingers down and stopping those crosses coming in. And in the last two games, he's been doing a lot more of that and trying a lot harder. Have you noticed that yourself, Jerry?
I have, and it's probably natural, really, because he knows that Mazraoui is back now from the African Cup of Nations, and like for me, I think Mazraoui should be the starting right back going forward. I just think he's better on the ball, and he's technically better and more secure of a defender than Diogo Dallo. But look, Dallo has the starting position at the moment, so I think it'd be very hard to drop him because he wasn't too bad yesterday. He played his part and relatively defended well enough overall. Didn't make any cock ups, So I think he probably will keep the number two position at the moment. And I don't know about you, but I would be tempted to bring Mazraoui in though, and give him a couple of games.
Yeah, you don't need to convince me. I would have started Mizrahi yesterday,
Yeah,
because he just makes us feel more secure. He's a better defender, and as you say, he's technically better as well. I think,
yeah,
but it may be a case of Carrick might wait until Dallo has a bad game before he drops him, and probably does want
yeah.
to change a winning team. Um, but for me, I would put Mizrahi in immediately. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But I just think in the long term, we can't rely on Dallo. I don't think he's going to get any better at 25, 26,
No,
and yeah, Mazrahi should be the starting right back. But I don't know if that's going to happen immediately or not. But we'll see. Another question for Carrick in the Fulham game is he going to stick with the same attack, or because that it's going to be against an opponent where we're dominating possession, will he think about bringing Shesko and Cunha or even Mount back into the starting 11? What do you think?
yeah. It's an interesting question to have. He might be tempted to bring Seshko back in just to have that extra body in and around the box. I think Mbumo suits the big games to play him up front, use the pace, and get in behind the likes of your Arsenals and your Liverpools and teams like that. Whereas against Fulham, you'd imagine they're going to sit back at Old Trafford and have a set up with a low block. So it might be no harm to bring in Sheshko just to have that extra body in the box and put a few crosses in and see can he get on the end of them. It worked well against the likes of Sunderland there earlier in the season, so I'd be tempted to do that. And if Dorgu is in fact injured, then you probably have to bring Cunha in from the start and play him on the left. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. No, I think it's an acid test really of where we're at under Michael Carrick, and it'll show whether the last couple of games were not a flash in the pan, but just if we were up for the big games and not up for the smaller games, like our failings in the past. You go on about the West Brom game from 10 years ago. That even under Van Hal and Moyes and sometimes under Ollie as well. I remember a game we lost to Sheffield United. We were top of the league, I think, at the time, and we lost 2-1 to Sheffield United, who were in relegation trouble at Old Trafford, of all places. So we have until we start putting away the smaller teams and being ruthless, then we're not going to win a league. So it's all well and good beating the big sides, but we have to be ruthless and beat every team.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on the mentality in this Fulham game, and look at how hard the players are trying with their pressing and watching the fullbacks getting out to their man and closing them down. And I just want to see. I want to see all 10 outfield players, busting and gutting in that game. If I see that in the likes of Fulham and Tottenham and Everton, then I'm going to be thinking, yeah, you know what, Carrick has really got this team playing for him. Yeah, so
And then you'd start thinking about potentially giving him the job. Um,
yeah.
if he can get us consistent against the smaller teams and winning games that we should be winning, then I think I'd start getting a little bit giddy as well.
Yeah, I think we're getting giddy already, to be honest. Yeah, it's been an absolutely sensational week. And I
Yeah,
know what else really helps us is that we play once a week, at most,
yeah,
whereas Arsenal played in the San Siro in midweek there, and we were able to take advantage of that.
that's a good point.
Um,
Yeah,
uh, it's really, what's really disappointing. I wish Carrick had been brought in on time for the Brighton FA Cup game and would still be in the cup and potentially a cup run to the final again. Um,
yeah,
you know, look at even the difference between Carrick and Fletcher. You can already see that Carrick had a much bigger impact than Darren Fletcher did. You know, um, yeah, he clearly has something about him, and the coaching setup, clearly
yeah.
as a
It's
team,
working. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, as a team, they seem to have a bit of everything there. And I know that um, Dara made the point in the comments that the entire coaching setup went to the FA Youth Cup game against Derby County, in which Tito Obi scored in. Um, I know Kaya Rooney made an appearance from the bench, and his dad was there as well. Apparently Amram didn't go to any of these games. That's a really bad look, isn't it? A first team manager not going to an FA Youth Cup game. You know, he should be going to these games, and he's very critical of some of the, like Harry Amas and Cheetah Wobi, and even Patrick Dorgu, saying that there was anxiety in the stadium anytime he picked up the ball. Fair play to Dorgu. He brushed that off and just got his head down and worked hard, and he didn't let that phase him one bit. And I'm really pleased for Dorgu on personal level as well, because he seems like such a real shy lad, a real nice guy. He's not an arrogant footballer by any means, so it's always nice when someone like that does well.
It is. Yeah, it's nice to see because, like you said, he's quiet and he's probably still getting to know himself. And a young lad. What is he? 21, I think. So
Yeah,
he's obviously developing. Not only his as a player, but his personality as well. And all this kind of good form and good exposure in the first team will only build that and help him build his confidence going forward, because it can't be easy coming from somewhere like Lecce in Serie A to Manchester United, with the scrutiny on the club 24/7. It's definitely a culture shock to someone like that. I can only imagine the pressure he's under, and that all young lads making a similar move are under. If I was 21, I'd find it hard to deal with that.
and you see Lecce, they are not Juve or Milan or Roma. They're a very small team. To It's like night and day coming from that to the pressure cooker environment of Old Trafford. Now
I'd say,
it's taken him. It took him about 11 months to catch fire, but he definitely has done that now. And the trick was playing him on the wing, and uh,
yeah, a bit more freedom, I suppose.
yeah, definitely. So we have to talk about Harry Maguire. What an absolute colossus he was yesterday. Um, w- winning so many headers as I expect him to do. I knew that he was going to start this game because of Arsenal's aerial threat. He was going to be key, just defending crosses and set pieces, and yeah, and even making interceptions. Reading the game so well. He was coming, even he was pushing up to the halfway line to make an interception in the second half. Um, and I remember manhandling um, Gabriel at one point and just threw him away. You have to be a pretty strong guy to be able to do that.
Yeah, it was similar to the week before when he threw Bernardo Silva into the trench at Old Trafford. No, there's a big difference between him and Gabriel, but it's nice to see Harry playing well, and I think with all the criticism he's taken over the last 3 years, to see him come back and have a little bit of a redemption arc, it's great to see. And he's stepped in now, and we really missed him and Delict, especially when Delict got injured back in November, December time. Uh, really missed that leadership at the back. I think the amount of points we threw away against the likes of Bournemouth and West Ham. We really could have done with someone like Harry Maguire on those days. So it's nice to have him back, and he was excellent yesterday. He up there with one of the men of the matches, definitely.
Yeah, I think he was given the official man of the match, but just like the City game, it was debatable as to who should get man of the match because there were so many contenders. And yeah, and Martinez, do you know? I think one of my favorite things about Martinez is when he does the wee drag back and just takes an attacker out of
Yeah,
the game who's pressing him. He's so press resistant, isn't he? And then those line breaking
yeah, he's
passes
so
too.
good.
And yeah, and
Brilliant, yeah.
I was looking at Laurie Whitwell's tweet earlier. He rewatched Dorgu's goal and he said it, it comes at the end of a 5 minute spell when United dominated possession, aside from Arsenal clearances, with every player touching the ball. The move itself was 9 passes, 6 players touching the ball. Martinez punching through the lines was the spark, and then yeah, the spectacular was built on competency. Yeah, once again, a United goal comes from Martinez breaking the lines. I think he's absolutely crucial to United, and I'm not fussy about which one plays alongside him between Maguire and Delict.
Hmm.
Michael Carrick has said that Delict hopefully will be back in training in a couple of weeks. I think that's what he said on Friday. Um, so that'll be a great addition because Maguire has certainly proved himself to be the man for the big occasion this season. But he's been injured for a big chunk of the season as well. So it'd be nice to have Delict back as an option because Lenny Yarrow's been struggling with confidence, and Aiden Haven is very inexperienced as well. So for me, Martinez starts every game, and then it's up to the character to decide who starts alongside him between Maguire and Delict. Uh, what way do you see it then, Jerry?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you there. I think Martinez, since he's come in, has really transformed our backline. Really, when he's been fit, he's just been so unlucky with injuries. For me, Martinez is probably one of the top five ball progressing centre backs in Europe. I'd say. Just the way he comes out from the back and his passing range is so underrated. And I think it's appreciated by United fans, but opposition fans just don't appreciate it whatsoever. I'd say they don't hardly rate him. I think they're fixated on his height, which is wrong. I think you have to judge him from his defending and what he brings on the ball. He's almost like a playmaker from the back, isn't he? But yeah, once De Ligt is back fit, then I'd like to see him slot back in next to Martinez because I suppose Maguire isn't getting any younger, and his contract is up soon as well. So you're going to have that conversation of whether you're going to let him go or sign a 1 year extension. So, but the way Maguire is playing, then I wouldn't. I'd be open to keeping him on for another year. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'd be open to keeping him for another year on reduced wages. Uh,
Yeah,
that would be my approach to it. If he's willing to take a wage cut, then I would consider giving him another year because it means that we can we can focus on spending on the midfield this summer rather than buying. If we let Maguire go this summer, we might have to buy another centre back, and we'd probably in an ideal
Yeah,
world we want to focus on the midfield this summer and not use money on a centre half. So I would say that he would be
that's
willing to
true.
take
Yeah.
a reduced wage to stay at the club because I think Maguire doesn't want to play for anyone else except United. We've seen him; he's had opportunities to leave and he hasn't taken them. So I can see him getting a 1 year deal on a reduced wage packet. I can definitely see that happening at the end of the season. Um, but yeah, Delict is kind of a younger version of Maguire, isn't he? He's got the physical presence of
Mhm.
Maguire, and he can get around a lot quicker. So um, we really suffered not having either of them in the side over that December period, didn't we? Because we're playing
Yeah.
really inexperienced, centre halves and Yarrow and Eden Haven in a back three, and United, suffered as a result. And yeah, everybody looks more comfortable in a back four, including Luke
Hmm.
Shaw at left back. Um,
Yeah. I'd be hoping he doesn't pull up injured because then you're kind of stuck for a left back and you're kind of putting square pegs in round holes again. So fingers crossed that Luke Shaw stays fit.
would have to be putting Dorgu in at left back then, probably, if Luke Shaw was to pick up an injury. But he hasn't been injured in the whole season. That is absolutely remarkable, given the amount of games that he missed in the previous two seasons. So yeah, clearly the United medical team are doing something right. Um,
I
yeah,
think so, and the fact that we one game a week as well probably helps as well.
without a doubt, and it's probably helping Mason Mount as well, not picking up any serious injuries that's keeping him out for extended periods. Um,
He's an interesting one actually. Like, where do you see him fitting in under Michael Carrick?
yeah, but he's another one of those players that I'd be more than happy to see him in the starting 11. Um, but he hasn't really got much of a sniff so far under Carrick.
Yeah,
Um, so he might lose out. I know that Amram absolutely loved him, and played him most of the time when he was fit. But under Carrick, he may not be a favourite anymore. But we'll have to have a larger sample size of games before we can really see um, who's going to play minutes and who isn't. Because as you said, we haven't even played an average team yet in the league. So we
yeah,
don't know what way he's going to set up in most games. He might be only playing that personnel in that system because we're playing the top two teams in the league. He might bring in the likes of Shesko or Mount and when we're playing Fulham. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I tell you what, if United can go and beat the top two teams in the league, there's no reason we shouldn't have the confidence to beat anyone in the league. Like, who are we going to fear now? You know?
yeah. It's them should be fearing us at the moment. You know the way we're playing with the pace and power, and we're looking like a proper Man United team at the moment. So I think it's the other teams should be fearing us, and we have a lot of big games to come as well. You know, with the teams around us, the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool as well to come to Old Trafford. You know, but I think they should fear playing us rather than the other way around.
Yeah, they certainly will if we keep this form up. Yeah, I know we have a trip to Stamford Bridge, don't we, at some point in the season, and I think we've got a trip to St James's Park as well, which won't be easy. And I think we've got Villa at
Yeah,
home in the second half of the season too. Um, so even though we've got the top two out of the way, there's still a lot of tricky fixtures to come. Of course, we play Liverpool at home in May as well. So that's
yeah,
certainly ain't going to be easy. There's no easy games in the Premier League anymore. I think, you know, even take a look at likes of Wolves and Burnley. They don't get hammered, do they? They make it difficult for everybody to get draws, and they lose by the odd goal. There's no easy games anymore. Um, so let's take a wee deep dive into the player ratings, and on the second week in a row, there's going to be a lot of very high scores here. So I'll hand it over to you, Jerry, on this occasion. So Senna Lemons.
yeah. I think I'd give him a 7 out of 10. He dealt with everything he needed to really, bar the the second goal from Arsenal, which, like you said, he was kind of blocked off, and Arsenal put that many bodies around the goalie. You're obviously going to struggle no matter who you are, even if you're 6'9" or 7 foot. You're going to struggle to get your hands on the ball because you've so many players bumping into you. So I wouldn't fault him there. I think he dealt with that quite well and made a couple of good reaction saves as well, like the header in the first half and that save down at his near post late on. So I think for that alone, I think probably give him a 7. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, that's what I would have went with, a 7. Yeah. He made a couple of good saves. He dealt with most of the crosses in the corners and only one blip. And I don't think that you could really fault him that much because of the amount of bodies that he was surrounded by. But yeah, a 7 is about
Yeah.
right. So Diogo Dallo.
I'd give him a 6. It wasn't his worst game, and judging by the past performances over the last few weeks, he dropped a few stinkers there. So I think he was okay yesterday. So I'd be fair and I give him a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think his best moment might have been quite late on. There was an Arsenal cross to the back post, and he beat Gabriel in the air to
Yes,
win a header
that's
at the
right.
back
Yeah.
post. Really good
That
defensive header. So I
that
have to
was
give him credit
important.
for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I have to give him credit for that. Yeah, so 6. Yeah, a 6 is a very high score for Dallo on this show. But yeah, he's been worthy of a 6 in the last 2 games. Um, although I might have given him a 5 against City because he had a really bad start to the game. You know,
yeah,
Shaw made a good tackle in our penalty area, and then Dallo immediately gave it away at a blue shirt. Then during a counter attack, he tried to play in Lamad, and he played the ball straight out of play. You know, yeah, but he improved as the City game went on, and as I've said, he's trying a lot harder defensively
hmm
in the last 2 games. So yeah, I think 6 is fair. So Harry Maguire.
I'd give Harry an 8. 8 out of 10. I thought he was really solid yesterday, and he was probably the better of the two centre backs on yesterday's game. He just dealt with everything, and you're in for a physical battle against Arsenal. Gyökeres, when he was on the pitch, didn't get a sniff either. Um, Harry just got his head on absolutely everything, and he actually played out from the back quite well as well. He's got a dribble in him where he can
Hmm.
break the lines with his running, so that's nice to see too. It's good to see him confident. So I'd give him an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I seen Andy Mitten give him a 9. That's but
Really,
I don't. Yeah, I think it was a top performance from Harry, but I think it has to be a clean sheet in order for a defender to get a 9 out of 10. But that's
yes,
just me.
yeah, yeah.
So Martinez.
It wasn't his best game, but he wasn't bad either. So I think I'd give him a 7.5, maybe. Um, might maybe dock a half a mark for the own goal. Like you said, he was probably too fixated on trying to grapple with his marker, Gabriel, at the time, or was it? Yeah, Gabriel. Um, so not his best game, but he did okay. Defended well, and like you said, his line breaking passes are worth their weight in gold for us. Um, when he
Mhm.
picks that ball up, there's always a chance that he can pop one over the top and get someone like Mbumo in on goal. So that's a really, really good weapon to have in our armory at the moment. So yeah, he's good. He's a great player, and I think yesterday 7.5 is probably about right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And Luke Shaw had a solid game up against Saka, and that's no easy job.
It's no easy job. Yeah, I think Saka is Arsenal's main threat, and when Saka doesn't play well, or when you nullify Saka, Arsenal don't create anything. I mean, they really struggle to score from open play in the Premier League. It's a little bit different in the Champions League where they're scoring goals for fun, but when it comes to the Premiership, they're relying on corner kicks and set pieces to get their goals, which is horrible to watch, really. And I think if they do win the league, they're going to be one of the worst, ugliest title-winning sides ever. I think.
Yeah, they are. That's what I have been saying, even to Arsenal fans in the last 24 hours, is that are used too reliant on set pieces. Yeah, because they had 9 corners yesterday, and United defended 8 of them really well, and they scored
Hmm.
from one. And they struggle against a low block. Uh, so yeah, they don't score enough from open play, and we made
No,
it difficult for them. And the as you said, an own goal and a set piece again, and they got 2 own goals against Wolves. You know, and
own
another
goal
thing,
is their top scorer.
yeah, uh, yeah, the 4 own goals this season. And another amazing stat is that none of their players have scored more than 5 goals in the league this season. That's amazing for a team that are sitting top of the league, and
They're
that
top, yeah.
again shows you how reliant they are on set pieces. I
Crazy, but yeah, we've gone off on a tangent there. I'll bring it back round to Luke Shaw. I'll let you give him his mark there.
7, yeah.
7, yeah, I'd agree with that as well.
So Casemiro,
He was good, yeah. It was his first game after announcing he'll be leaving in the summer. So there was a little bit of touch of sadness when I heard that because I like Casemiro, but I think it was always inevitable that he was going to go this year. He's done 4 years in Manchester now, so he was realistically never going to stay for another one. So yeah, no, yesterday he was solid and he did his job well. So I'd give him a 7 as well. What do you think?
yeah, I thought he's been excellent in the last 2 games. And yeah, again, he's having a bit of an Indian summer in his career, isn't he? A bit of a late resurgence. Um,
Yeah,
Now, he hasn't been perfect in every game this season. He's had ups and downs, but in the last 2, I think defensively he's been brilliant. He's he's not been asked to defend you forward too much. He's given an area to defend, and he's doing it well. He's making those tackles and those interceptions, and when he's not asked to come out of his comfort zone, then he generally performs really well. Whenever he's left exposed, if he's asked to press, or he's under Ten Hag when he was left to as a one-man band basically, in a wide
mm,
open midfield, then he was just terribly exposed. Or even when he was playing at centre back, that was really unfair as well.
yeah,
Because it's not his position. But when he's just asked to sit like a Makalele in front of the back four, he tends to do it very well in most games, and he has done that. But to come to United at the age of 30 and get 4 years out of him, that's pretty good going. And it was
yeah,
never likely to be a fifth, especially on the wages that he's on. And given
mm,
that we're looking to rebuild the midfield this summer, he was going to have to be sacrificed. But
yeah.
I think he'll be remembered fondly, because
Oh, definitely.
he's won 2 trophies, and he scored in one of the finals. And his first season was absolutely superb. And this
Yeah,
season, like I said, he's been ups and downs, but he's had uh, big performances in big games for United. So, and
and
his passion doesn't go
his
unnoticed.
passion. Yeah, yeah. I was just going to say that he seems to genuinely have an affection for the club as well, and when he scores a goal, he's giving it all, the tapping the badge and celebrating as passionately as possible. So I think any fan of any club would love to see that. So it's great to see someone, a character who's won so much at Real Madrid, come to United and have a real hunger and passion for the club. It was lovely, and I think I'll definitely remember him affectionately.
Yeah, and Varane was the same, and he was in the same boat. He'd won all these miles at Real Madrid, but he wanted to really succeed at United. And I know injuries kind of curtailed him a bit, but it was a perfect parting gift from Varane, because he was superb in that cup final against Manchester City a year and a half ago. Um, yeah, so these players have been accused of coming to United for the money late in their careers, but I don't think that's true at all. They came to United for a new challenge, and they've grown to love the club over time. And Casemiro's family just love being in the stands when the fans are doing the Casemiro chant. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so he is going to be a player that's remembered fondly. Yeah, remember in the City game when Mason Mount scored that disallowed goal, and Casemiro jumped onto the back of Michael Carrick.
that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah. So, what mark do we give him again? Um,
8. I'd give him an 8 out of 10.
yeah, I think that's about right. Kobe Manu.
Yeah, he was decent. I think there was a stat went around today that he covered the most ground of any player yesterday, which is good to see. Who would have thought that would be the case under Emery? I think that was Emery's biggest criticism, that he felt that Cobby wasn't able to cover the ground. But I think he's really proved him wrong in the last couple of games. And I don't think yesterday was his best game. I think he was a lot more effective against Man City last week. But at the same time, he was very good. Got on the ball and kept it and passed it around, and he got back and tackled as well. So I think I'd give him maybe a 7.
Yeah, and he got the assist obviously for Kuna's winner, although it was more of an individual goal. But yeah,
That's
it was
right.
a nice wee touch. Um,
Yes, yes,
yeah, it was more like a workman-like performance, as you said. He covered the hard yards.
hmm
There was no flashy moments like in the City game when he sent Semenyo back to Bournemouth. We didn't really, we didn't see that in this game. But definitely, the goals will come from Menu. We know how dangerous he is in and around the box.
yeah.
We'll definitely see that in the coming weeks. But
He's
in
got
those,
great feet, hasn't he? Lovely
oh,
feet.
magnificent. Yeah, against City and Arsenal, we needed him to be a workhorse more than anything. But I think when we're
Mhm.
playing, the smaller teams, we'll see Menu get on the score sheet, and because he'll probably be bolder, he'll venture forward a wee bit more.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so 7, yeah, I think that's about right.
yeah.
Patrick Dorgu then, another magnificent performance from a player who's just proven everybody wrong.
Oh, he was brilliant. I think it was probably he's up there with his best performance so far in a United shirt. No, I think he started a little bit nervous, especially when he headed that ball and it kind of he didn't really clear his
Mm,
lines and it resulted in Arsenal scoring. I think he could have done better there.
yeah,
But he really grew into the game and he looked a lot more confident in the second half in particular. And for that goal alone, it reminded me of Patrice Evra's goal against Bayern Munich all those years ago. What a strike! I think overall, I think I'd give him an 8 because Maguire got man of the match. You said so. We can't give Dorgu a higher mark than Maguire, so I think I'd go for an 8 as well.
yeah, he's been an 8 in the last 2 games. Can't remember. Did I give him a 9 against City? I don't know. I might have, but he's been at least an 8 in the last 2 games.
Yeah,
And but to be honest, since Boxing Day, he's been immense, and I can't give him enough praise. Uh,
yeah,
so, yeah, I know you just mentioned the Avra goal against Bayern Munich. Avra done another one of his posts yesterday, where he does like a wee dance with his sunglasses on, and
yeah,
he's all, "I love this game." He put up a video of him watching Dorgu score on his TV, and he said, "What are you doing to me, bro?" and tagging Patrick Dorgu in it. And then Dorgu replied to it saying, "I learned from the best. I seen your goal against Bayern." Um,
yeah. It's nice to see a little connection between the two. Um, if Dorgu goes on to achieve half of whatever achieved at United, then that'd be great.
mm, yeah, hopefully he can. But even if he wins half those medals that ever did, or half the league titles that ever did, then we'll be more than happy. Um, yeah, just going off on a tangent again. But in the David Moyes season wasn't very memorable, but Evra gave us the best 22 seconds of that season.
Yeah, it's
Because
brilliant. We were
no sooner
we
had
were
he
in
scored,
heaven.
Bayern went up and equalised.
Yeah, yeah. It was not a nice result in the end, but just for those fleeting moments, it was fantastic. We thought we were going to the Champions League semi-final at the time, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately. But it was a great moment and one that lives long in the memory.
Yeah, it was an unreal strike. Um, so Brandon Bimmel, what does he get?
Oh, I thought he was excellent yesterday. Really pressed hard from the front, and he kind of led our press and really
Yeah,
unnerved the Arsenal defence. And I think that kind of resulted in um, who was it that gave the ball away for the goal?
Zubimendi.
Zubimendi. I think that kind of unnerved him a little bit. And I think if Mbuma wasn't pressing like he was, then Zubimendi wouldn't give that ball away. So it kind of was a chain reaction, if you like. And um, he's excellent. He's our real goal threat and our main goal threat at the moment, isn't he? He's been superb this season. He's really taken up the mantle, and he's a big game player as well. It's just scoring at Anfield and scoring against Tottenham, and now
City.
away to Arsenal and City as well. It's just brilliant. His goal catalogue is up there with the best of them this season. Um, so I'd give him an 8 out of 10. What do you think?
Yep, without a doubt. He's absolutely ruthless in front of goal, and yeah, it was him and Bruno that were pressing that forced the mistake.
Yeah,
Um, they were pressing together, and yeah, he does that really well. He just absolutely works his socks off. Yeah, he plays like he's a United fan, and he plays like he's a United fan, and
yeah,
Kuna likewise. Um, yeah, he's definitely our main goal threat this season, and as I said, he's the obvious pick now for first goal because so often this season he scored first in games. I know. See, when you're a new player at United, as a fan, you'd be happy with that player scoring a bunch of goals against the smaller teams and then maybe getting one or two in the big games. He's scoring against all the big teams. This is you couldn't ask for more than that. It is the only team left to score against is Chelsea, I think. So you fair play to him.
yeah,
He's had an
yeah,
easy start.
yeah. And I think a point I'd make as well is the recruitment looks good now for United. And I know it's only been half a season or whatever, but I think the recruitment team probably deserve a little bit of credit for their signings last summer with Cunha and Mbumo and Lamins. Even Seshko has played a part as well. So I think that's just a point that a lot of people miss as well, that our recruitment has definitely improved the last summer or even 2 summers. If you go back to Mazraoui and Delict as well.
Yeah, I think the only signings that any of us have made that haven't worked out is kind of Xerxes and Ugarte in particular. But other than that, I think
Yes. Yeah.
they've been really good, the signings. So
Yeah.
Amad Diallo yesterday, probably one of his quieter games. It wasn't as good as he was against City, in my opinion.
No, he wasn't as good as he was against City, but I suppose he probably had to do more defending yesterday as well. Arsenal probably had more of a threat than what City had at Old Trafford the week before. So, there's that side of it too, where he has to dig in and try and help out his fullback. But at the same time, he was still a threat. Every time he got the ball, it looked like he could do something. So, I think I'd give him a 6.5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, Mateus Cunha came on after 69 from Diamond Bumo, and obviously he was the match winner. So what does he get?
Oh, he has to get an 8 as well. Straight up, we'll bump him up to 8 out of 10. He deserves it for the goal.
Yeah. Normally a sub only gets a 6 or 7, but because it was such an amazing goal and it was the match winner, it has to be an 8. Um,
Yeah,
so
at
he'll be
least we
pushing
might as
now.
well give him a 10 out of 10 for the first win at the Emirates since 2017, and that celebration as well with class.
So you're going to go with the full 10 out of 10 then for that sub appearance?
We'll stick to the 8. I think the 8 is
Yeah.
probably fair.
Yeah, I think 8 is probably fair. Yeah. A 10 out of 10 probably has to be a hat trick, something like that. Um,
Yeah,
I don't normally, it's very rare that someone gets a 10 out of 10. Yeah. Do you remember the Brentford game where McTominay came off the bench and scored twice? I think I'd give him a
yeah.
9 for that. I think, yeah. So I think a 10 out of 10 would probably be like Amad Diallo's hat
Mm,
trick against Southampton. I think that would warrant a
yeah, like
10.
a match-winning impact. Yeah, where you come on and score a hat trick or something. Yeah, like I suppose Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's performance against Forest when he came on and scored 4 goals. No, that'd probably be a 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. So Chester come on after 81. He didn't play long enough to give him a rating, and Mazrahi even less so.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we went 3-2 up, then he came on for Diallo to help us see out the game. Um, but so only rating left is Michael Carrick. Um, I give him a 9 against City. Does he get a 9 again?
Yeah, I think we go the same again. I thought he got his tactics spot on. The way he set us up, nice and calm and patient at the start, and we kind of picked our moments to go at them, and we grew into the game and defended really well as well. Barred the first goal, I think. Other than that, we dealt with everything Arsenal had to throw at us. So yeah, I'll give him the same again, same as last week. What about you?
Yeah, has to be a 9, given the magnitude of the win and the opponent, and given that it was an away game and it was so unexpected. It doesn't feel like it's been 8 years since we won the Emirates, because we've actually won twice there in the FA Cup in the intervening years. So it
Yeah,
feels like we've won there a lot more often than we have. But in the league, we haven't won there since 2017. Under Solskjaer, we won there in the cup 3-1. I think it was. I think Sanchez scored against Arsenal in that game.
yeah,
Um, and then we won on penalties last season, of course, in the FA Cup third round. Xerxes scoring
hmm,
the winning penalty that day when we held on with 10 men when Dallo got sent off. Um,
yes,
so yeah, it's good to put that right and get a win away against Arsenal as we did at Anfield earlier in the season, because it's been too long. Um, yeah,
definitely.
and Michael Carrick is off to an absolute flyer. So the acid test now is the likes of these games against Fulham and Everton and West Ham that'll be coming up in February. So
Hmm.
but the big difference at the moment is that I'm looking forward to the games now. I'm not dreading games anymore. Uh, I'm expecting to be entertained when I watch United now. And you know, managers like Amram, they put such emphasis on their philosophy, on teaching the players how to play his philosophy, how to fit into his system and play the way that he wants to play. Whereas there's certain managers who understand psychology and they're able to get the maximum out of players. We always say stuff like the players should always be up for every game, and there's a certain truth to that. But certain managers are able to get a wee bit, 5 or 10% more out of players, and Carrick has certainly been able to do that in both spells in charge of United. Um,
Yeah,
so, and if you think in that previous spell in 2021, drew with Chelsea, beat Arsenal, and won away from home in the Champions League against Villarreal, qualifying for the knockout stages. So
yeah,
Carrick has just continued on where he's left off. Um, yeah, and if I can just use like Celtic as an example as well. Wilfred Nancy plays a very similar system to Amorim, and he couldn't get the players to buy into it. Whereas Martin O'Neill, twice this season, has been able to get more of a tune out of the players because he understands psychology. I think Michael
yeah,
Carrick is probably the same.
yeah. I think so. With that Celtic one, that's a really funny situation. Like, how often do you see something like that happening? It's very, very rare. But I think Martin O'Neill has probably proved that he's the man to come in and get a tune out of them. Short term at least. And if Michael Carrick can have that sort of effect long term, then you have him in the question, or in the bracket to go and get the job. Because that's a very rare trait where psychologically you get the best from players and from a team. Not everyone is blessed with that, and I think Alex Ferguson had a touch of that as well. It's just a small sample size at the moment, so we'll probably have to wait and see how he does longer term.
Yeah, we need a larger sample size, and then we'll be able to judge him properly. But I'm looking forward to the games ahead. Michael Carrick has certainly brought joy back to the Man United fan base, and cannot wait for the Fulham game. It's just a bit of an annoyance that we have to wait another 6 days for that game. Unfortunately, we're
Yeah,
not in Europe, so the games are not too frequent. But I suppose it gives us more time to keep watching the highlights back on YouTube and rewatching Match of the Day. That's another a point I wanted to make. All of a sudden, I'm watching Match of the Day again. That's 2 weeks in a row I've watched Match of the Day. I haven't watched Match of the Day 2 weeks in a row in years.
yeah,
So that's what Michael Carrick has done.
yeah. The Carrick effect. Yeah, it just shows how inconsistent we've been. We needed someone to come in and just get us playing the Man United way, and people go on about the United DNA and stuff like that, and a lot of opposition fans and pundits are there sitting on Sky Sports saying, "What is this Man United DNA?" and rah rah rah. But I think we saw in the last two games exactly what it is. Going on the pitch and fighting for the team and fast attacking football, scoring goals, late winners, passion, and that's Man United in a nutshell. And I think we've seen that, so it's long may it continue.
Yeah, and because he's played for the club, he not only understands the pressure of being a Man United player, but just as you said there, he understands the Man United way of playing football as well. So he, that's what gives him an advantage over you know any European manager that comes in. For some reason, I think United are just suited to having like a British manager or a former player in charge because they just seem to understand not only the pressure but the style of football that's required. Whereas European managers want to come in and implement their fancy philosophy, and often
Yeah,
players don't buy into it. So there's something to be said about bringing in a former player or a British coach.
yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, that's kind of been the way since Alex Ferguson retired. Really, we've had all these foreign managers like Van Hal and Mourinho, even Ralph Ragnick. He tried to implement his own style, and it didn't go too well for him either during that interim period. But yeah, I think you're right. We've had all our success with British managers, bar David Moyes. That was the only anomaly there. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm just enjoying the moment right now. And like you, I can't wait for the Fulham game. Hopefully, we continue this great form and try and catch Aston Villa in third place. Why can't we aim high and try and get as high up the league as we can? I've even heard that some people on about a title charge, but let's not get carried away just yet.
Yeah, somebody was saying that in the comments there earlier as well. And on Sky Sports, they were interviewing a United fan earlier, and he said that if we win every game between now and the season, we win the title. But
I saw that actually. Yeah. I saw that.
Arsenal would have to drop another 12 points in order for even for that to happen. But to win every game, that is a big ask, even for Carrick.
Yeah,
Because as I've said, we're way to Newcastle, we're way to Chelsea, we're at home to Liverpool, we're at home to Villa. There's a lot of difficult games left, so
yeah.
to win them all, that would be special. Could you imagine if we went and won them all and then won the league? That would be incredible. That would be one of the best title wins ever. Just to come from nowhere to do that. But and
Iconic. Yeah.
as one of the Sky Sports presenters said, United have overhauled a 12-point lead before against Newcastle in the 90s. So why not?
Yeah. It's happened before. So if any team was to do it, it would be Man United. I think. We're the kings of the Premier League, like from the '90s. So why not? Let's dare to dream. But look, no, we'll keep our feet on the ground and take it one game at a time. Let's focus on beating Fulham first.
And if we did do the unthinkable, then he would undoubtedly get the job. There'd be no
Yeah,
talk of Enrique after that.
10-year contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully he can do it because I don't think any United, no one at United has been a successful player and manager. That's yet to happen. I was hoping that Solskjaer would do it, so maybe Carrick will be able to do it. Nobody's won a trophy as both a player and a manager at United, so that'll be a unique
Yeah.
achievement if he manages it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's a pity, like you said, we're not in the FA Cup. He could have done it this season.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. If only if he had been appointed before that game, then we might
Hmm.
still be in the FA Cup, but it wasn't to be. So we shall wrap it up there. Please, everybody, if you're watching on YouTube, smash a like on the video. Get subscribed to the podcast, whether you're watching or you're listening on Apple or Spotify, and get those your comments in, and I'll get replying to those as many of them as possible. And I shall see you again then, Jerry.
And see you later, Kyle. Thanks for having me on again. It's always nice to come on after such a brilliant result. So it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, these shows are always much easier whenever we win the big game or win any game because there's been so many of these podcasts in recent times where they've been like a chore because it's been a dreadful defeat or a boring match, and but the last 2 weeks has been so different, and so it's been a pleasure coming on and doing these shows in that circumstance. So I'll see you again next time then, Jerry.
All right, pal. Talk to you later.
See ya.